the driverless guy. And we have a first run from Zürich. I just didn't make the 75 meters. Just veered off to the left a little bit. And I think this is one of the examples that you were talking about, Matti. If the moment you go and you drift a little bit to the outside, it's very difficult to recover.
Yeah, a very ambitious start from the Zurich team. I like that. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. Apparently it's quite difficult to still estimate and see the cones while driving at high speeds. You could see the first part looked okay, but then indeed it started clipping cones, and then it's just a matter of counting how many they can collect.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think there's points given for amount of collected cones. We do have usually we do have some kind of award during the award ceremony for the cars that collected the most cones or killed the cones in the nastiest way possible, or something like that. We see some examples that cones are absolutely destroyed by a car. But so far, I think the procedure is that the safety official will push a button, actually, right?
Exactly. When things go wrong or not really as expected, there's one of the engineers of the team that has a big red button which can kill the car. If that happens, you can actually see it on the car. There's a blue light that's flashing when the car is killed. If the car is in normal operation, you'll see a yellow light flashing, which means the autonomous system is active and doing its thing.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the procedure. So actually the car is being pushed towards the start line with the driver inside. And we can see the example now. The driver will get out and they will start the autonomous system. And then what happens?
So then they get a certain amount of time in order for the car to get ready. Then the official, in this case Christian, will give the signal to the engineer we were talking about, the safety engineer, with the big red button to start the car. Then again they get about 30 seconds or something before the car gets going. If all is well, they can do their event, set their time, hopefully well. If not, if they don't start the car in that allocated time, they either get a rerun, so they need to queue back in the queue. So depending on the situation, they either get a rerun or it's a DNF.
Yes, and how many tries do these cars get in total for the driverless acceleration?
I think today it's 2 per car.
And in the end of the acceleration, it has to come to a full stop by itself within the allocated window between the cones, right?
Exactly. So there's quite a runoff, as you can see. At the end, there are even 2 or 3 cones indicating this is really the end. So the cars detect the finish from the big orange cones at the end. There are also some at the beginning. And from there, indeed, the car needs to stop. And the car will transition from the orange blinking lights to the constant blue light, which means it's a successful run.
Yes, exactly. And these cones are, we see a number of blue cones on the left, and we see the yellow cones on the right, and we have the large orange cones. What's the purpose of these different colors and shapes?
So the bigger ones, they indicate the start and the end. In the skid pad, also in the autocross and the track drive, they will indicate a new lap that has begun. The blue and the yellow ones are there also to help the car to know, what is left and right. On acceleration, I don't think it matters too much, but certainly on the track drive, it's actually sometimes quite difficult to see where exactly the track is going, and cars might misinterpret a gate between 2 cones and the actual track. And this is where the colors really help the cars to understand.
So are you saying that these cars here, they don't use the cones by themselves to navigate, or it's just a last resort? How do we see that?
I'm not 100% sure how all the teams do it, but there are various indicators. So you have the colors. They also have a kind of a radar system. It's called LiDAR here, different technology, that can scan the cones. So they also see where kind of objects are. And indeed, they also have some pre-planned mission in their system to know, are we doing a skid pad? Are we doing an acceleration or a certain track? Maybe they also use a bit of GPS, but I'm not sure what the rules are about that. As you can see, the Milano car did not manage to get their car ready in time. I'm not sure if they were given the go signal, so they're probably eligible for another run, but need to queue again.
Yes, and I think that just talking about the well, technical side of stuff, and you're probably a bit better in that than I am. So you mentioned LiDAR, and I think some of the teams also use cameras, right, with visual recognition. Maybe one of the challenges is that all the cones are behind each other, right? So the car cannot sense beyond that a couple of cones probably, because it's just they're covering each other because they're in a straight line.
Definitely, and this is also where the high speeds on acceleration are so challenging, because at slow speeds you have more time to react, you have more time to see where the cones are, but at higher speeds you have less time to react, and then you see things going wrong, like our first car, the Zurich car, who veered off to the left, hit some cones. While we are waiting, we have the Aachen car being queued up. They had a very spectacular skid pad run yesterday, so I don't want to jinx it already, but I have high hopes for them. I think this could be an impressive run.
Yes, we have to mind our commentators' curse, Matthias, because previous years we did say a couple of times, oh, this looks good, and then just before the end it all went wrong for a couple of cars. So let's not use our commentators' powers again this year. Anyway, we see Kyriak's. What's the difference, Matthias? To what's actually the distance to the starting line, and why is there a certain distance?
So, in theory, kind of, there's no distance, but of course you need something. You need some bit of margin. I think in the rules it says it's about 10 to 20 centimeters just before the actual timing starts. They do align it very properly with the camera, so all the cars should get equal treatment. But yeah, you do get 10 or 20 centimeters for free. Well,
it used to be 30, as far as I could tell, but I think that the trick is that it has to be the same distance behind the starting line, behind the beacon that you trigger. It has to be the same distance for every car, because we know from theory, if you get 5 centimeters or 10 centimeters more before you carry on through the beacon, it's a huge time difference. And I think that's also maybe one of the explanations of the world record that we've seen in FSEs this year, which is a bizarre time.
Yeah, it was a 2.99, so they just went under the 3 seconds in FSEs. It was the team from Delft. They're also present here this week. Indeed, they set a blistering time. I think the acceleration looked already quite very good, but yeah, the time is phenomenal. So there must have been some kind of extra margin there in FS East. But in general, the times were very quick there, so let's hope it was equal for all competitors, and then it's fine.
Yeah, and in theory, this is driverless, so that means 50, 60, 70 kilograms less weight on the car. What does that mean for the time, in theory?
It should be quicker. We have an 80 kilowatt power limit here for the electric cars. For the combustion, there's also some kind of power limit or volume limit they can do. Before I continue my explanation, maybe you can have a look at the Eindhoven car, who is ready. So this will be our second acceleration. It's a good start. And it seems that they have got some speed limit on there, which might be a clever thing to do to set a banker lap. The blue light is flashing at the end. That usually means something went wrong. It should be a steady blue light. At least the run looked okay. They also stopped in the right place. So something technical might be wrong. What was I cannot see the acceleration time itself.
Yeah, can the autonomous system on board also decide to put a sort of an emergency stop?
Definitely, yeah. There are a lot of safety systems in these cars. Rightly so. I mean, it's a nice competition, but we don't want to take any risks here. So yeah, the car can definitely stop itself if it feels something is wrong. And also the person with the big orange box can always kill it if the car veers off or if it goes off track. So as Mickey was saying, the cars are a bit lighter. Well, actually the cars are the same weight, but there's no driver inside, so that can save you 70 kilograms. That's a lot. So in the acceleration, you usually have 2 phases. First one is the traction phase, and the second is the power limited phase. Matter too much. I mean, you still have a little bit more grip from your tires if you have less weight transfer, that kind of stuff. But it's really in the power limited phase where your weight becomes a big factor.
So in theory, we should get quicker times than during the manual acceleration, right? So in theory, it should be a couple of tenths faster than with the driver.
Definitely, in theory it should be. I don't think we'll break the 3 seconds here as we did in FS East, but you never know. From the 2 runs we've seen so far, we see that it is definitely challenging to get these high speeds. Eindhoven took a bit of a careful approach in their first run, accelerated to a certain speed limit and kept it there.
So can we just looked at a very, well, let's say cautious run from the Eindhoven car. Is there like a correlation between the first run and the second run? Can you say like, okay, we're going to do a bank lap and let the system learn the track a little bit? I mean, it's a straightforward track, but still somehow it's very difficult. Is that an idea? Is that strategy that teams would approach to?
Definitely, every team has its own strategy. Some go for a bank lap, making sure you got the points in, and then can change the settings for the second time. I'm not sure if they're allowed to do mappings of the actual track. That was a thing in the past. I'm not sure if that's still allowed. But yeah, definitely, teams will some teams will take a careful approach, check if their initial settings are right, and then yeah, they usually have some speed limit or power settings that they can move up for their second run.
Yeah, and especially with talking about high speeds that these cars can achieve at the end. Let's not forget these cars also have to compete in the other competitions as well with the driver. So I can totally imagine that these teams don't want to destroy their cars on the driverless acceleration, because if you go off to the right, for example, there's a wall, and then these walls don't give too much. If you go to the left, there's a little bit of a runoff on the grass, and you have some time to push the button. But if you go to the right, then it's very close to the wall.
Exactly, even if the safety engineer kills the car in time, it still has some velocity, it still needs some time to stop. We don't see any drama today. We've seen some drama in other competitions, cars crashing out, hitting walls. Yeah, let's hope we save that today.
Yeah, and when we talk about a safety stop, it means actually actuating the brake system, right? It's not just cutting the power or another door out, it's actually going full brake lock.
Exactly, I think it's called the EBS system. It's also part of the scooterneering, where they need to prove that their car can do this kind of stuff before they're allowed to participate in the competitions. I think this is the car from DHBW Stuttgart, number 77. They also did not manage to get their car ready in time. So I don't know the specifics here of the acceleration, but in some cases, most cases I think, you are allowed to rerun this, and this will not count. But I'm not sure about the specifics.
Yeah, I think that the time that is counted, the 30 seconds, is after you manage to activate the system and the orange lights are blinking. I think that's the time that you get. After that is 30 seconds, and then if you don't go, then you get a DNF probably. Before that, I think you can have a number of tries at least.
I think you're right, Mickey. Something interesting. There's like a blue light beneath this car. It's the car from Lisbon, number 50. And I see a blue light. Do you see it as well, Mickey?
Yes, I thought it was my sunglasses, but it looks like some kind of blue light. I'm not sure what it's for. Maybe for sensing the track, or do they have like active suspension? I would be surprised. But
or it's just for show and looks nice.
Yes, I'm still waiting for cars with spinners on the wheels, but or something with lights on the wheels. But that would be awesome. But I'm not sure if we will get it this year.
I think in Spain they do accelerations when it's night, and then they actually dress up the cars a little with some lights. Now, in this case, it might just be indeed scanning the track, or there are also quite some sensors to measure velocity that use this kind of sensors to light up.
Yeah, or maybe we have a new class, the Formula Student Underground, and we have the most blinkiest cars in the competition. Anyway, we're waiting. We're crossing our hearts for Lisbon that they will attempt at least. We do hear some lights. Lights are out, and away we go.
And we see the orange light is still blinking. Yeah, there is the blue light, which means it's a successful run. This is our first successful run, I think, depending on what Eindhoven did of the day. It was around 6 seconds. Can't see the time anymore, which I think is a representative and good time to start your acceleration. 6.8. Mickey shows me there's also another timing behind me. Thank you.
Yeah, and we saw also this car drifting a little bit to the left, but it actually made a correction. And we saw the previous car that went off. It didn't make that correction. So this time the AI or the smart driver was actually able to correct the car in time and also going over the finish line.
I think it's a tricky balance. You indeed want to correct, but given it's a straight, given the speeds, you also don't want to correct too much as a car. And I think this where maybe some cars struggle a little bit. But 6.8, good time. Congratulations, Lisbon. Not to forget, also in the driverless kit pad, the points are actually awarded on position. So who has the first best time, the second best time, and not necessarily on the actual times itself. For the driverless cup, it is based on the times. So getting a time in, getting somewhere is really valuable here.
Yes, and if we look at the track, because I was just wondering whether there's a correlation between the two cars making the same drift towards the left. We do see some banking. We're not exactly in the middle of the track, right? So we do have some banking, and banking is to the left. Would that play a role?
That is definitely true. I never noticed it. It does indeed bank off a little bit to left. Yeah, I think that might actually play a big part. Definitely.
Yeah, we'll keep it in mind, and we'll see whether the cars tend to go to the left a little bit, because so far our sample size is not really big, so we only had a couple of cars. But I just noticed the two cars were going similarly to the left side.
Yeah, let's make some notes how many cars veer off to the left and right, and then maybe by the end of the afternoon we can make a proper statistical analysis on what happens here.
Or just comment on it and not make too much of a hassle of it.
That's also possible. We have the Munich car, the 31, number 31. The car is charged. I see the autonomous system is standby, so the yellow light is not blinking, but is constantly on. And now the blue light is flashing. I think they had to stop the car. I don't know exactly what is wrong, but apparently they couldn't. They probably couldn't get it ready in time. And I think this might be a case where actually the run might count. Not sure. So we had quite a lot of cars already. I think only half of them actually managed to start their acceleration. This was the Munich car, and up next we have the Stuttgart car, number 26.
Yes, and while we're waiting, we have a very special guest here with us. Yes, you can't run away. We have Frank Ruske. Frank, welcome to the driverless acceleration. What's your opinion of this event?
Amazing.
Well, that's short and sweet. What else?
No, it's interesting, and it's very nice to see the improvements the teams and the cars made over the couple of years. It's really amazing.
Yes, I totally agree, Frank. Just for the guys that are listening and don't know who Frank is, which is almost impossible. Frank is one of the founders of this competition, and he's been. Well, last year you weren't here. You missed a couple of years, but you're back. So only one. Okay, good to have you back at least, and we'll make a very nice competition this year, and we'll see you also at the dynamic events again, probably. Good.
So the green team car from Stuttgart is getting ready. What I find interesting about this car, they have their autonomous lights, so the yellow one and the blue one. They have it on their rear wing, which looks really neat. So the engineer is making sure everything's ready to start the car, charge it, and also start the autonomous system. The car is charged. We also see a constant yellow light, which means the car is in standby. They have been given the go signal. And off they go. That's a quick start. Wow. Stops the car. And now we're waiting for the blue light. I cannot see it from this distance. I think we're seeing a blue light. The team members are happy at least, so that's a good sign. That was a 4.4. That's actually a really good time already. I expect in the manual acceleration, we can see times around 3.5 seconds, 3.4. But I think for driverless, around 4 seconds is really, really good benchmark.
Yeah, this is already a benchmark to beat for the rest of the teams. But I do have some high hopes for a couple of teams because we've seen some impressive results yesterday on the skip pad, didn't we, Matthias?
Definitely, it was amazing. The Aachen car even managed to go sub 5 seconds on one of the laps, and I think that's super impressive. We have the Trondheim car again with their purple highlights, so the car looks really black, but if you look closely and in the right sun, you can actually see some purple highlights, which I think is really cool. Before they can get going, we need to clear the green team car, of course, who's still at the end there. Team members walked over there. Driver will get in because there always needs to be a driver in the car if the car is pushed around here on the paddock.
Yeah, let's not forget all the safety rules that are implemented here in the competition. At all times, when the car is on its wheels and it's moving, there has to be a driver inside. Of course, except the only exception is the driverless event. But at all times, there should be a driver inside, ready to apply the brakes or steer. And also, it also should be always pushed by a team member with a push bar, not by the tires or by the wings or whatever. And also, if you have wings, you need to have wingmen.
Exactly, simple as that. You don't want any bystander to run over your front wing. That would be a shame. So indeed, in the past years, it has become a rule that you need at least 2 wingmen or wingwomen. That's also allowed, of course, on the left and the right when walking around the paddock. The driver also needs to wear driving gear because in the end the cars can still be dangerous, can still something happen. And the driver gear, of course, is a bit fire retardant, which helps if something might happen, the driver can at least safely get out and no one is injured.
Yes, because most of these driverless cars are actually electric. We do have a couple of combustion cars, but both in combustion and electric, we do have a fire hazard, as we've seen a couple of times in the past years.
Unfortunately, we do. I mean, these cars are developed in 1 year time. That's an insanely short amount of time. I think given the quick development, the cars are quite safe, but still there's always the risk. They're not production cars, of course. Yesterday we saw 2 combustion cars also participating in the driverless event. I think there are 4 in total. Not sure how many made it through scrutineering. While I say that, the Trondheim car started their acceleration. I think this is a very cautious approach, but I mean, a lap is a lap. Let's see if they can finish it.
Well, just looking at the body language of some of the team members here, I don't think this was the intention of the run, but this is pure speculative, obviously. I'm not sure whether this is just a test of the system or. And here we go. It's going to the left slowly though, but that's it. Well, they tried at least, and they were here. At least they got some idea, and they can maybe look at the data and find out what went wrong.
Exactly. This is just the first run. You only have to, so you cannot risk. You cannot play around with it too much. But at least the car drove for, I would say, halfway on the track. And then it said I had enough of it and took a left. We just talked about if there are combustion driverless, and we are going to see our first one, the team from Valéncia, with their combustion driverless. Personally, I think it's really interesting to see the car, the engine starting, to see how the driverless system engages the first gear and uses the throttle and the clutch to get the car started. I think it was a Valéncia or the Napoli team that stalled yesterday actually at the start of skid pad. Hopefully they can make a quick start here. on the rear wing of the Valéncia car. It says, "Can't get any hotter." I'm afraid, though, today it will get hotter. I think 30, 34, 33 degrees is predicted. So everyone make sure to hydrate, get a cap, get a hat, and yeah, get some sunscreen.
So we're talking about the weather, Matthias. 32, 33 degrees. What does it do for the cars? This, for the cooling, combustion, and electric? What's the difference, and what is one easier or not? But let's wait first for a Valéncia car, and then we'll talk about a little bit about that. Yeah, they still have to wait a little bit because one of the cars is being pushed back. The Trondheim car is being pushed back. I think they want to clear that car at least before they will give the go-ahead to the Valéncia car.
Yeah, we've seen this yesterday as well. It does take some time for cars to get cleared off the track because, of course, we do not have the usual way where manual drivers can exit the track. The car always has to be pushed out, which goes quite slow. And there we go. Quick start from the Valéncia car. Sounds nice. Still accelerating. And takes quite a bit of cones on the right side. I'm not sure if it's killed or finished it. At least they finished outside of the track, which is not where it should be. But this is a bad one for a statistic, Mickey. This is one veered off to the right.
Yes, there we go. So you see, you have, you know what they say, you have lies, you have damn lies, and you have statistics. So yeah, there we go. That's our theory for now. But it's 2-1, two to the left and to the right. Yeah, it did cross the beam in the end, so it does get a time if it stopped, but it did stop outside the box. So I'm pretty sure that's not going to be a valid run because it's clearly not inside the box.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the rules are exactly here. I also am not sure if the car was killed or if it stopped on itself, which is also an important factor to see if it was a valid run or not. We might check later with the team or with the official what the result is of this run.
Yeah, we can see at least that the track has to be rebuilt. So we will have a couple of minutes before the marshals are going to rebuild the track. I think that you cannot leave it like this because there's no cones to guide the car. So we will probably see a couple of the red shirts and the white shirts will start running and rebuild the track.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll get enough practice today, picking up cones, placing them again. Because the driverless cars, they tend to eat quite a bit of cones. We've seen yesterday that as well, and I think here once you hit one, you're very eager to hit a few more.
Yeah, so if you we just started talking about the heat, which is already quite well. It's getting nice and hot outside. What does it do for a car, for example, that is on like this and has a battery pack? How hard does the cooling system have to work?
I feel like if the weather conditions change, you have two kind of people. One is the drivers. So if it rains, they like it. If it gets hot, they like it. But then on the other hand, you have your engineers and they don't like it. And I think with the weather, it's the same. If it's getting hot, it's nice. The tires are getting grippy, but all other systems suffer, of course. And indeed, you can already hear the cooling system doing its work. For the acceleration and skid pad, I think all will be fine. But yeah, in endurance, temperatures are definitely challenging to get right.
And with terms of batteries, I mean, the batteries will perform quite well. If it's colder, probably a bit less. But the cooling of the batteries, especially when they are discharging and recharging, because a lot of these cars have, well, they regenerate the braking energy into the batteries, and that cycle actually it puts a lot of strain on the batteries, doesn't it?
Definitely, and we'll see that in the endurance. I think electric cars going quick at the start, and then maybe at the end need to slow down a little. Could be energy issues, but could definitely also be temperature issues. So I think all the accumulators here, they need to be below either 55 or 60 degrees. I'm not 100% sure. And yeah, it's quite challenging to do so because most of the coolings here are air-cooled, so the accumulators are air-cooled. Some of them are also water-cooled, but as you can imagine, water cooling an electrical accumulator sounds a bit scary.
That's a sentence that you don't hear a lot. We cool the electronics with water. That's I can imagine that can raise some eyebrows. Anyway, I think in the meantime we were having a chat about temperatures and whatnot. In the meantime, we have the track is clear. It has been restored by the marshals, and I think we have the Aachen car ready to go. I think they did get a go-ahead from Christian. We'll just wait and see whether they can complete this run. Well, it was a decent getaway, clipping a couple of cones to the left. Well, make that a lot of cones to the left. So we got another score for the left side of the things.
But the good news is they did finish their acceleration. I think the blue light is flashing, which means something has gone wrong. It's very hard to see from here. But I think if they would have come to a proper stop, this would be a valid run. Although, of course, with some penalties with the cones, yes.
Yes, every cone hit does have a penalty with it, and of course, if you hit 10 cones, and you will have a time set, but it will not be a lot of points or a very high position. If you compare it to the cars that have a clean, slow run.
Definitely, but still, in the driverless, it's still quite young. A lot of teams fail to set a proper time, so having something on the board is definitely worth quite some points. We have the Milano team, number 90, lining up right now. They also made a lot of appearances yesterday on the skid pad. I really love their, they have the Italian flag on the rear, but also on the front. They have like on their front wing, a bit of a Italian flag accent. Similar to the DHBW car, who also has the yellow neon light, like neon highlights on the front wing. I love that.
Yeah, and it's really nice to see that a lot of teams do have an eye for aesthetics, and they're part of the country, obviously, and also they want their car to look nice, which is I always say, you better have a very nice looking car, which is also fast, obviously, but if it's nice looking, that's already some points.
Yeah, some say if you have the right stripes, you get some horsepower for free.
Yeah, we see that team from Milan having a little bit of a discussion between them, but I think the guy in charge is just making the final preparations. What kind of procedures do they have to do? Just because I see them pushing a lot of buttons and turning on knobs, and what kind of things are they doing in that 10 seconds that they are frantically inside the car pushing stuff?
Yeah, so they roll the car here with the driver in, of course. So they need to get the driver out, and then they need to start all their systems. They need to make sure car is in the right mode. The autonomous system will be activated. They also need to make sure it is in acceleration mode. Now I would presume they configured this already in the queue or in the pits, but you never know, they need to check. And then indeed it's all about the procedure about charging the car, getting it ready. Also I think the brake system needs to be pressurized. So I also see some engineers often making sure that is done correctly so the car can actually brake.
Yeah, we sometimes even see team members with pumping up the pneumatic system. Some others have probably some pressurized bottles or whatnot to automatically recharge the system. So far, I haven't seen any guys pumping the brakes, but we did see that last year.
Yeah, because obviously in the driverless, there's no driver to push the brakes, so you need a different kind of system that is able to put enough force, to safely brake the car. The electric ones do have their electric motors, but if all goes wrong, you cannot rely on that. So you also need your mechanical system to be activated.
It has to be more or less an independent system from the other electrical smart systems, because it has to be. If that goes wrong, still the mechanical safety stop has to function, right? That's the whole idea behind it.
Exactly. If something software or electric goes wrong, you just want to shut down everything and rely on mechanical consistency.
Yes, and they have these timekeepers have a very strict rule here: do not cross the beams. And I think that's why we saw the time already running for the car number 31, because I think one of the team members crossed the beam in front of the car. Actually, it might seem a bit harsh, but they are quite frantic about it. Don't cross the beams. They tell us every time, every morning, don't cross the beams, because then our systems go haywire. And they are intended for the cars and not for the people. And the white legs, especially if we cross them with the white legs, then systems go haywire.
So you have a few guys here in the dynamic area. The car from Munich is being prepared. There are also some engineers behind me, I think, looking at the status of the car to see if all is right. Car still needs to be charged. I see the green light on top of the main hoop, which means, there we go. You have the red flashing light, which means the car is charged. I cannot see the autonomous light from here. A little bit of confusion going on. Car is discharged again. I could not see the autonomous light going on, so maybe the car is in the wrong mode or something else went wrong. But it looks like they have to back up again, re-queue, and try again later. In the past, we've seen on the driverless acceleration and skid pad not so much action, certainly not in the beginning. But this year is completely different. Yesterday, we immediately had a queue of 3 cars in the skid pad, and today is the same. The queue is full. We have Dresden, we have Lisbon for the second run, I think. We have Milano, and after Dresden, I cannot. Deggendorf was also going to go for a run. So quite nice to see all these cars lining up, and we see quite some action here on the driverless acceleration.
Yes, I think it's a smart move, Matthias, because you never know what can go wrong. We saw it yesterday. A couple of cars that failed in the skid pad, they went early. So they had a lot of time to fix their cars and come back for another try. And the same goes here. If you're here and you do a banker lap, or you get a run and it fails, then you can always have a little bit of time to troubleshoot and to fix the problems. And I think it's just a smart move to do, because then you maximize the chance that you get some points on this event.
I totally agree. And maybe the track conditions get a little bit better over time. But for these driverless cars at this point, I don't think this is the major factor here. It's also a very busy schedule. We have the manual skid pad going on as well in parallel. So teams need to navigate their way between driverless acceleration and manual skid pad this morning.
Yes, that's a challenge by itself. I know from the past we used to make like a whole strategic plan of approach for the competition, especially when you have a number of events in parallel and you want to make sure that you get the best conditions every day. Fortunately, today we have no rain coming, so that means that you don't have to navigate around the rain showers or whatnot. But still, it's I think, especially here, if we look at the driverless acceleration event, the track conditions won't matter that much. And that's a big difference with the manual acceleration, because then you maximize the performance of the car as much as you can, and then you want to go late when there's a lot of rubber and there's a lot of heat in the asphalt. But for the driverless, that will not make the biggest difference. The biggest difference, it will be the software and how the car manages to navigate the track.
Exactly. There are also not that many cars here doing burnouts and stuff to put some rubber on the ground. Meanwhile, Tallinn car is charged and it's ready. I see the yellow light flashing, which means the autonomous system is ready to go. So they do have 30 seconds now for the car to get going, if the official gave the go. They're anxiously waiting for the car to start. and they decided, so probably their 30 seconds were over. They stopped the car, you can see the blue light flashing. They have to pull back their car and try again. I think this might actually count as a run, depending on Mickey is going to check with the officials, because otherwise we keep guessing. Next up is the beautiful car from Dresden. I really like the color pattern, the orange, the white, the black. Looks very neat, very polished as well.
Yes, Matthias, I just checked just to be 100% sure. And actually, so the moment Christian gives them the go, then your attempt starts, more or less. So if you don't get to start then within 30 seconds, then it will count as a DNF. Before that, before you get the go from the marshals, you can abort by yourself, or you can say something is wrong with my car, I will go out of the queue. The only penalty you have is that you don't get to go in the first run queue, so you don't get priority above the other cars. So that's the only difference. So the moment you get a go, then that's it. You can get 2 tries, 2 goes from the marshals, and that's it, and you have to do it with that.
That makes sense. So then for the Tallinn car, it was a DNF, right? Yeah. So they were given the go signal, everything looked ready, but the car apparently did not start. We don't know why. Maybe we can have a chat with the Tallinn guys and figure out what's wrong. And we have the Dresden car lining up. They're checking if all the settings are correct. I think I see the autonomous light. From this angle, it actually looks green, the autonomous light. Could be my sunglasses as well. It's flashing, which means the car's ready to go. And off we go. Aggressive start, quite some speed. Takes a lot of cones. At quite some speed, it took the big orange cones, unfortunately.
I think also saw some parts of the car flying off because we can definitely see some debris on the track. And I'm not sure whether that's maybe a camera that was attached to the cone or maybe the wing end plate of the front wing. But it was quite a big hit because the speed was quite high, actually.
A very ambitious run. It all looked so good, and then just at the end started clipping cones, and also the big ones. Well spotted, Mickey. Indeed, there is some debris there. Let's hope it's nothing too bad, not too much damage. Yeah, very aggressive run for the first lap. I was very curious about the time. Did they? No, it was a DNF.
I think the safety officer also pushed the button before it came to stop autonomously. So I think that's the reason why they got a DNF. And again, we have to rebuild the track a little bit, and let's see how many cones survives this latest assault on the cones' lives. Cones' lives matter, as we all know. So let's try to keep them at least alive a little bit longer, because the competition is still long.
So far, they are taking the hits quite well. Yesterday on skid pad, we also had some cars that were eating cones quite literally, and people had to find them underneath all the aero parts, even lifting up cars in order to retrieve some cones. So yeah, they definitely have a tough life, these cones here.
Yeah, it's amazing to see where they end up in the end. We've seen in the past, we've seen cars that they were actually, well, throwing cones in the air and actually landing inside the cockpit with the driver. And the driver was like, hey, I have a cone in my hand and a steering wheel. What do I do? What do I do with this cone? So there was a lot of funny stories that we've seen in the past. So it's always nice to have those memories with us.
So Fast Forest queuing up. For the start line, they still have a little bit of time, I think, because they are still rebuilding and clearing the track. The car from Dresden is being pushed away. It actually goes quite quick. Props to them. The golf cart is also making its way back. It's a very clever way to transport the engineers to their car. Otherwise, you have to wait for the walking as well.
And it seems we don't have a lot of cars in the queue, so we have one standing at the start line, and we have another 3 in the queue. And those are all cars that have had a try before, because they are not in the priority lane. I was actually expecting a bit more cars, to be honest. Maybe they do a different scenario with the strategy. They do the skid pad first, and they come to the acceleration later.
This morning I talked to some teams, and I think actually they do the opposite. A lot of teams go for the driverless acceleration first and then go to the skid pad. Yeah, I'm also surprised to see that the trend is not continuing of a lot of cars. Maybe they're all at skid pad now, and then we can expect them back in a good half an hour, and we'll be full again here.
Yeah, there was a time difference, obviously, between the skid pad and acceleration. Skid pad started this morning at 8:30. And acceleration started at 9:30. Maybe that would, well, prompt some of the team to say, okay, let's go to the skid pad first and then go to the acceleration, because we would have a lot of time for that as well. Yeah, I'm just also looking at the schedule, Matthias, because I think to this afternoon, we will also have the, well, this morning we have the driverless acceleration and the manual, so with the driver skid pad. And this afternoon we will have a great spectacle, which we will comment on again, the manual acceleration. And that will be a proper battle between a lot of teams. And we know that there are quick teams here. We have the world record holder, we have the previous world record holder, and so on. So that should be very, very interesting as well. So be sure to tune in from 1:30 in the afternoon. And in parallel, we will have, I think later on, we will have the driverless autocross. And that should be also very exciting as well. We've seen a couple of cars last year. For example, the KIT car, it was amazingly fast on the little track. And it was really spectacular to see. So also, well, you have to make a choice as viewer or listener to our live feed, which one to follow. Or maybe you have 2 screens or 2 audio sets or whatever, I don't know. But be sure to at least follow one, because it should be a lot of spectacle.
Definitely a lot of stuff going on at the same time. I would also go for the double monitor approach and get them both on. After the manual acceleration, I see there's also the historic acceleration. Do you know something about that, Mickey?
Yeah, those are the accelerations that happened in the past, isn't it? No, just kidding. No, we do have the historic cup for the combustion cars. Because this is the last year actually that we have a combustion class allowed here in the for a student event. And to commemorate that, there's also a historic cup. We have about 20 cars, I think, 15 to 20 cars. And I think in the meantime, we have car number 44, a little bit to the right, and then just clipping the cones after the finish line.
I think I see a solid blue light. It's very hard to see from here, which would mean it's a valid run. I'm not sure.
Yeah, the time at least is very good, 5:05, which is I think one of the best today. I think only one car was faster today. Yeah. Which had a valid run. Too bad for the last cones. We did see them swerving to the right again, and then correcting back to the left, and then correcting back to the right, and then again going to the. So there's a sort of an oscillation going on over there.
Yeah, the swerving thing seems to be really an issue that they can't really get solved. This car, but also on other cars, we've seen the same pattern. Once it gets a little offset, it starts to swerve and swerve and swerve. For them, luckily, they got across the finish line, got the car stopped. Okay, they hit a few cones, but at least they had a lap time. And I think I saw a solid blue light, which would indicate it's a valid run, but we do not know that for sure.
Yeah, and you just asked me about the historic acceleration. Well, actually, that's for the historic cars. They have been scrutinized. Some of them are really old. Some of them are like 15 years old or even older. I know there are really, really nice cars from back in the day. It would be really nice to hear them here again, making some proper noise. Just floor it, and there's no traction control. Just let the driver do their things, and that should be quite a spectacle as well. So also we have a very nice program for the afternoon as well, and so we'll be here commentating on that as well.
So we quickly had a chat with the Lisbon car with the nice blue light on the bottom to see what it's all about. And it is, in fact, their velocity sensor. And the funny thing is, they don't necessarily need the blue light, but if it gets a bit darker, they need to shed some light on the track, and also under the car, of course, is a little less light. So that's where they actually need the light for to see, to actually see the track even in darker conditions.
And it's a light car, right? So that also helps a little bit.
It's definitely lighter than the other cons.
Well, you have to say I do feel a little bit for some of the team members, especially for the people that are pushing the car. Sometimes I even think that they are recharging the car by pushing it. It's because it looks really heavy sometimes, and you see there's a lot of effort in pushing these electric cars around. But those are the rules, but it doesn't make it a lot of fun sometimes.
Yeah, with the combustion ones, you of course can just pull it out of gear or open your clutch or something, and then basically freewheeling. But these electric cars, their electrical motors are directly attached to the wheels. So indeed, when pushing it, you're basically charging 4 electric motors. And I think, in fact, I'm not sure if the accumulator is coupled, but yeah, it generates a lot of friction. And you could, in fact, actually charge the car, I think, but only minor. Unfortunately, they did not get ready in time, it looks like. So the driver will get back in the car, and yeah, they will probably queue again and try it again. This run does not count, so no harm done.
Yeah, so we have two more cars left in the queue, which is the Milan car and the NTNU Trondheim car. Should be interesting. We've seen them here before. Somehow didn't manage to, well, or either get the car running or veering off the track. But these are the only two cars. We have a nice open track, no queue, almost no cars in the queue. So come on up with the cars if you have some spare time and you don't have anything to do. If you've done your skid pad, then we have a very nice track here for you.
And it was actually the Tallinn car, but they are moving out of the queue. So Mickey, I think you scared them because they are going away now. Or looking at the time, it might actually be that you know, the deadline of the skid pad is getting closer. It's still open for 1 more hour, so it might be that they choose to do their skid pad now and come back later for the acceleration. So that means we have 1 car at the starting line. And luckily the Lisbon car requeued, so we have 1 more in the queue, ready to do acceleration. And the Milano car has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fans at the rear. That's quite an amount. I think 2 of them are for cooling of the other systems in the car, and 4 of them are part of the accumulator cooling. That would be my guess, at least.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the times on the timekeeping page, Matthias. We've had a total of 10 runs. Well, actually, attempted runs, more or less. And we see a lot of DNFs. We see, unfortunately, we see 8 DNFs and only 2 valid times so far. So, so we have the 4.40 from Stuttgart. And we have the 684 from Lisboa. Obviously, that's unofficial and without cones and everything. But at least those are the 2 times that are on top right now. The rest is has been DNF'd.
And this goes to show how important it is just to get a lap in, even if it is a 6.8, which is a very good time, of course. Yeah, it will give them quite some points. And unfortunately, Milano again did not manage to properly start their car. But no worries, queue is empty, so they can, if they want, re-queue again, and in 5 minutes we might see them queuing up again, try again, and hopefully they can do a successful acceleration. While Milano is being reversed, Lisbon is being pushed forward. They were here 5 minutes ago as well, with the blue light, remember. They couldn't start the car, or not in time or not properly. They will try again. Lisbon, so that's the team with the 6.8 with a valid time. I don't remember if they had any cones or not. So let's see if they can improve. I hear the sound of a charging car of Lisbon. Off they go. Quite some speed, hitting quite a lot of cones. And I think the safety engineer stopped the car. I see the blue light flashing. Unfortunately, not a valid run. But it looked very ambitious. Some applause from the crowd. And the engineers all joined the golf cart. Was also doing an acceleration to get the engineers to the car so they can push it away again. This was another one that veered a little bit to the left, so let's keep count, Mickey.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on it. I just had a little talk with Tristan, one of the timekeeping guys, and he informed me that he's always well looking at the timing equipment because there was some damage done yesterday by the Delft car. It's ironic that the Delft alumnus here is worried about the Delft car hitting his timekeeping equipment. And some of this equipment is quite expensive. So if it breaks, then we have an issue. I mean, beacons and stuff that's replaceable, and that's they have some in spare. But if the central electronic box is destroyed for some reason, then yeah, well, they have a backup system, but we don't want to use that. They told me because that's a lot of work. So let's see that we can whether we can keep it whole today.
Yeah, luckily here on acceleration, I think most of the stuff is probably at the start, so very unlikely to be hit. You never know. But of course, there are also some devices at the end, and given how much some of the cars veered off, I'm actually surprised that nothing has been hit yet. Fingers crossed that we can keep it that way. So the Lisbon car is almost cleared. The golf cart is back as well, back in position. And we have the Milano car lined up for another attempt. They had a few times where the car did not start properly, but the official didn't give the go yet, so they could just go for a rerun. Okay, they are charging the car now. I can see the autonomous light on, so that's good news. They're indicating that the engineer should come our way, keep a safe distance from the car. It can always drive backwards, you never know. I think they have been given a go. I'm not 100% sure. Ah, there we go. Oh. And they start, immediately the car veered off to the right. Luckily, the safety engineer killed the car in time. I think that was a good move because the car is completely off track. It was a very quick acceleration, actually, but immediately the car went right.
Yeah, I think that was a quick reaction because it was going towards the wall, and I mean, every tenth of a second counts. So I think they made a good decision not to take any risks for before the car goes into the wall. So good for them. In the meantime, I think the queue is empty, and I'm not sure whether Milano is now done. Let me look at the scoring so far. I haven't seen them here yet, so I think that this was their first official try.
I think they tried 5 times already, but indeed this one is the first one where they actually were ready and gave it a go. Car is being pushed back our way, which might indicates they're going for a rerun. Although they probably need to be checked as well. Or this might just be the most convenient exit for them. Instead of running completely to the end of the acceleration and turning there. That might make more sense, I think.
Yes, and while we have a, well, completely empty queue here right now, I'm just taking a peek at the manual skid pad event, and it looks like a very, very interesting battle between a couple of teams. As far as I can see, it's a very nice battle, sub 5-second skid pad times, which is really good. Between Stuttgart, the DHBW, the other Stuttgart, and TU Delft. They are very close together, and together with Renault, which is actually quite a surprise. We've known them for a while, but they are really up there with a good time, and now being joined by Chalmers as well. So not much going on here on the acceleration, but on the skid pad, there's a lot of things happening right now.
Yeah, definitely, and it's all very close, bunched up together. But what I found most interesting is these times are similar to yesterday. So that means that the driverless skid pad is getting in the same order as the normal skid pad. I think the team from DHBW and Delft still beat it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Chalmers almost has the same time on their driverless as their manual skid pad.
So maybe here's a conspiracy theory. Maybe the driver isn't doing anything. It's all fully automated as well.
It was driverless all along.
Yes, maybe, who knows. Anyway, we have some time here to kill, so that means that we can come up with conspiracy theories and have a little bit of banter about that. But for now, I think we will have a little bit of a break and come back to you when there's some action here on track. And then we'll see you again later.
After half an hour of no action here at the driverless acceleration, we finally have a new car, DHBW Stuttgart, number 77, attempting the acceleration. The queue is still empty. I did see the Hamburg car outside as well, so hopefully they can find their way to the queue as well.
Yes, and we understand that the skip pad event, the manual skip pad event, is closing in a bit more than 15 minutes. So that means that after that, I expect a lot of teams that are coming over here to do the driverless acceleration. So for now, it's probably very, very busy at the skip pad event. And now we are waiting for the DHBW Stuttgart car to get ready.
The engineer is turning all kinds of knobs on the car in order to get it ready. Maybe we should organize a kind of competition. Who can turn all the knobs the fastest? But it looks like the car is ready to go. Still some things going on. But they are ready. We are now waiting for the go signal from the official. Car is charged. System is ready. They now have 30 seconds. Yes, off we go. Looks clean. It accelerated quite a lot. And then it's slowing down again. It should only slow down after the finish. It manages to stop. The blue light is on, which means it's a valid run. It was in 11 seconds. Not the best time we've seen here so far, but it gives you a lot of points. And they're actually the third car now with a lap time here on the driverless acceleration.
Yeah, exactly. A run is a run, and the points are points. And being only the third successful attempt out of many, it is just a very good performance for now. So, well, they still have some time to improve on the time. I think that was their first not DNF run, as far as I can tell. And I'm not sure. We're going to check whether they had an earlier unsuccessful run or not. If not, then that means that they will have another run to go. So maybe they can dial up the speed a little bit.
Exactly. It looks like this was their first run, indeed. No DNF runs before. So in that case, good job by the team, great strategy. Get it over the line clean, which proves to be very difficult so far with the other cars. They have a big advantage now over the other teams that do not have a clean run yet.
Yes, and it started out quite fast. It accelerated actually, but towards the second part of the run, it was like slowing down a little bit. I'm not sure why. Maybe the driver, the AI got scared. I don't know where to go. But it started out really, really promising. If they can continue that, then it will be a very good time indeed.
Exactly. It also looked to me that they were slowing down in the middle. But maybe the system started sensing that it couldn't see the track well enough anymore, or maybe started swerving a little. And at least this car had the intelligence to slow down a little bit, make sure you keep it on the track and finish it, while maybe other cars keep the same speed or keep accelerating, swerve to the left and right, which can cause to go off track with the car. The golf cart, the FSG golf cart, ready for departure again. So looking over the concrete here, I see the Delft car being pushed towards the start of the queue. I also see the Hamburg car. And I think there is a front wing on the Delft car. So maybe a little bit of background. I think Mickey already mentioned it at the beginning of the stream as well. Yesterday, Delft were the first one to do the driverless kit pad. But unfortunately, their car decided to take an early left and hit all the timing equipment. It was horrible to see. And they also had quite some damage on the car. First, it looked like it was okay with the front wing. But yeah, had quite some damage and had to do another driverless kit pad without the front wing, in fact.
Yeah, it was for a couple of minutes. It was a timekeepingless skid pad and a wingless skid pad as well. So yeah, they good job on getting it repaired. And as always, when you have such a big modifications, big reparation on the car, you have to go to scrutineering again, because you have to show that you're not putting on a different wing or a wing that isn't attached properly, or there can bits and pieces can fly off. So and that takes time. So well done for the team, because if I remember correctly, they use a lot of glue, and glue has to harden and so on. So it's a proper time management there while getting the car fixed.
Yeah, when I arrived here this morning, there was no front wing on the car, and I don't think they were through scrutineering yet. So that would mean it's now 20 past 11. That in that time they did scrutineering, they also did a skid pad, and now they're here in time for their driverless acceleration. So well done to the team, and yeah, let's hope they don't destroy it again here on the acceleration.
Yeah, they do owe some beers to the timekeeping guys, because they already have weak hearts, to be honest, the timekeeping guys. But now when they saw their equipment destroyed, then you could see them running out of the vans and all the crevices of the track. They were crawling out of the catacombs of Hockenheim towards the timekeeping equipment, because that's their baby.
Yeah, I still think they do owe some beers, but I heard that the Delft team felt so sorry yesterday that they actually handed over some stroopwafels, you know, the classic Dutch stroopwafels, to the timekeeping guys to keep them at least a little bit happy and say sorry to them.
Yes, I can imagine. That is the official historic peace offering that you offer. I think the Dutch have been offering stroopwafels for years to the natives to keep them, you know, satisfied and happy. That is the official peace offering from the Netherlands. That's correct.
So on the front wing, you can clearly see that on the left side of the car, so the right-hand side, if you're standing in front of it, you can definitely see that on the mountings on the front wing, there's some aluminum going on there. So there must have been something wrong with the inserts, but looks like they managed to fix it, and it looks quite solid. The engineer, the scrutineer is also checking if everything stays in place if you push it a bit, and all looks fine.
Yeah, they always do a proper check here, don't they? They check the play on the wheels. They check any play for the suspension. They touch the rear with the wings a little bit, not too much, obviously, because some don't have a very high importance for lift or downforce. So they are, but they are checking it, everything, and it's really good, because you don't want anything flying off and potentially hitting or the driver or someone in the neighborhood. So that's a good job that these scrutineers are doing every day.
And we also see some electrical checks happening before. So all the cars are checked before the event, then you pass scrutineering. But before and after every event, they do a few, how do you say, spot checks to see if all is right and no one is cheating. Both for safety and also, so you don't have different settings for your scrutineering.
Yeah, and let's not forget, this is the car that did the 2.99 second acceleration run in FS East. So this is the car that should be the fastest, and it will do it now without a driver. So actually, I'm looking forward to this one.
I thought we're not going to jinx anymore, but if we're back on that train, I'm happy to join.
No, I'm just looking forward to something. I'm not saying it's going to go well, but that's the difference between a commentator's curse and just looking forward and being enthusiastic. And now we have an increase of cars in the queue by 100%. We have another car joining, which is the TU Hamburg car, with an umbrella against the heat for the driver. Yeah, I can kind of feel sorry for these drivers because they have to sit in there, put on the warm clothes and fire protective suits, which is quite warm. I know from experience. And all they get to do is get out before the car actually starts driving.
Yeah, they even have the fire protectant underwear on, which is even hotter. So yeah, they're definitely sweating out there. And with the driverless cup, they don't even get to drive it.
Yeah, I think this is the moment to tell a little bit of an old story that there were rumors that to save weight, some of the Delft drivers didn't wear any underwear under the suit. But that was just a rumor, and it has not been confirmed, officially at least. Yes, we're just looking at the car while the final checks are being made. Christian is checking everything, whether you can see the right information on the display. I see a big external combustion sign on the wings, Matthias. Do you know what's that for? Because it's obviously not a combustion car.
Unfortunately, I do know what it's for. A few months ago, they had a very unfortunate incident with their accumulator, and basically their whole accumulator burned down. Luckily, the accumulator was on an external cart, so only the accumulator was damaged. No one else was hurt, so that's the good news, but yeah, accumulator completely burned down. They did manage to salvage some of the cells from older cars, I think, combined everything. And here they are, with a complete car and an impressive acceleration so far. That looks really good. Completely straight, quite quick, hit the velocity limiter. And they stopped at the end with the blue light. That's a valid run. Can we see the time? It's a 5.08. That's the second best, I think, after Green Team, but really impressive. Well done to the Delft guys.
Yeah, clean run. No, it looked absolutely straight. I didn't see any swerve or any corrections made. Of course, there have been some corrections, but they were very small. So, well done. Driverless driver AI.
Very impressive indeed. This was their first run, so maybe if they get some confidence, they can tune it up and we can see a quicker time in the second run of them. We have a new car here on the acceleration. I don't think we have seen that one today. It's the 78 car of Hamburg. They did quite well yesterday in the skid pad. So definitely a team to look out for in the driverless electric category. I really like the blue and green accents inside and their wheels even.
Yeah, it's just attention to detail. It's always nice to see. And these cars are so well made. Also, every detail has been thought of. Aesthetics, they match the colors of the rims with the body. They look at the lines on their on the car as well. It's also quite aerodynamic. Well, some of them have huge wings, but still somehow they make it look good as well. So it's really impressive to see these cars.
Yeah, and certainly in the past years, all the wings on the side pods and stuff have become more and more complex. Hopefully they also add quite some downforce. And even for the Hamburg car as well, you can see there are multiple stacks of wings on the side pods. It looks really impressive. And let's see if this also translates into a good acceleration time.
Yeah, and we used to see a couple of years back, we used to see also the DRS activated. Well, actually activated in the beginning and then, or not activated in the beginning and then activated towards, let's say, after 25-30%, they would actually switch on the DRS at the rear wing. I don't see it here though, but
I think we do. I think the wing is
open. Well, we'll have to make sure to look at it if it closes or not.
Yeah, I know that some teams, for simplicity, just start with it open because you can kind of do more damage, so to say, if you open it too late, while just having it open at the beginning is also already 90% of your gains. Let's see. A happy engineer, also a happy official. Looks like we are ready to go. The go signal has been given. They have 30 seconds now to properly start the car. We're taking quite some distance here. I'm getting scared.
Safety officer taking quite some distance. I'm not sure whether he doesn't know whether the car will go forward or backward. There's quite a difference, but I think he just does it so he can see the line of the track a little bit better at the beginning as well. Because if you're standing right behind the car, which you are not allowed to do because it's an electric car, then you cannot see the line properly.
And the thing about these electric cars, they can actually accelerate as quick backwards as they can forwards. It's just a -1 somewhere that needs to be set correctly. And off they go, very quick start, but immediately the car turns left and it's killed by the safety engineer here.
Actually, there was a very good attempt to take out one of the beacons for the speed. I think that's a speed measurement beacon, the first one after the start line. They did actually quite a good attempt to hit that as well. So I could almost see the timekeepers having another heart attack. But I don't know what went wrong, but you could see actually the emergency brake system activated because it did pull like a regular skid mark on the track.
It's quite an interesting pattern. You have like it's like a W that they've drawn on the track. Interesting. And we have the KIT car, the one from Karlsruhe, lining up. And I think they had the quickest time on skid pad, at least without any penalties applied. At least, I mean, the driverless skid pad, the manual skid pad is about to finish. So we'll probably see a lot of cars coming here now.
Yeah, I just got a text from Tristan. I just mentioned that these timekeepers are in vans and in all kind of catacombs in the former student Hockenheim. And he texted me, well, yeah, but we have air conditioning. And that's something I'm quite jealous now because we are out in the full sun. And these guys are sitting in an air-conditioned van. So enjoying their stroopwafels, by the way.
Yeah, looks like they have the last laugh. Ja, meteen. Hoppa.
Gewoon heel hard. And yeah, while we're waiting for the next couple of cars, I think the skid pad event is either closed or is about to close because it has been 11:30 a couple of minutes ago. So I do expect a lot of cars to come rushing over here, and I would not be surprised also looking at past experience if this queue got really full, and which happens every year, some teams are just too late because they waited too long or they just wanted to have the last run of the event. And if you time it wrong, then actually you can say, okay, time is time. 12:30 we close, so you got your chance, you didn't take it, and you didn't get another run. So we'll see whatever happens, but so far it happened almost every year, so I wouldn't be surprised if it happens this year as well.
Yeah, and same story yesterday with the driverless skid pad. Also, a few cars did not manage to get their second run in because time ran out. We still have an hour left. Sounds a lot, but it really isn't. Every car takes a good couple of minutes to queue it and to clear it after. So if you take about 5 minutes into account per car, that's only 12 cars. So guys, hurry up.
Yeah, and then that's not accounting for cars that destroy the track or get stalled or even have maybe a mechanical failure, because then you cannot push it away. Then you need a recovery team and so on. So the longer you wait and the further back you are in line, the more risk you have of not being able to run.
And luckily we do have this system here with first run priority. So if it's really your first time that you appear here on the acceleration event today, you do get priority over the other cars. But still, if it's a long queue, even the first driver queue can become long, so be careful. We are looking at the Karlsruhe car, who's still waiting. I'm not sure if it's by choice or if they are discussing something with the officials.
Yeah, Matthias, and we also see some of these media guys. They have a big drone just next to you. They make very nice shots of the cars moving around with these drone images, and they are so fast, and that's like a pro drone as well. These are companies that are specialized in getting some very nice images and videos. So, and they are sharing it, I heard, during the welcome speech. They said, well, of course, these drone images we can just share with everybody. And if you have a very nice shot of your car going through a slalom or whatever, then we are happy to share the footage with you. So you can use it for PR and media purposes.
I wonder if these drones can keep up with the cars in something like an autocross. I think definitely here on acceleration, the first part, the drones should be able to keep up. I don't know what their approach is going to be in terms of flying. Either hovering or following the car. We'll see.
Yeah, just to give you a little bit of an intermediate update of that about the times. So we have the Stuttgart car number 26, green team. They did a 4.4 earlier on, which really fast. I think they had a blistering time on the manual skid pad as well, 4:68 out of my head. And after that, it's a 5:08 from Delft. And we have the Lisboa car with a 6:84 and a Stuttgart DHBW with an 11:09 second run. So these are the four officially, well, semi-officially registered times from these cars. The rest, which is about 10 of them, 11 of them have DNF behind their name. So it's even more difficult than we anticipated. And we were actually, well, we predicted it a little bit at the beginning. But it proves a bit more difficult than we anticipated. Granted, not all teams have made it yet here, so we do expect a couple of good teams to try at least.
Yeah, indeed. What we were discussing in this morning, what strategy teams will do. Will they go immediately full ham or do a banker lap? I think it shows that the teams that do a banker lap, get the time in, get some points. There are only 4 that managed to do so. So that seems to be the right strategy. I think we have Karlsruhe now lined up, and this is probably their first run.
Yeah, and we know the driverless kit car from previous years was really fast on all the driverless events. But I was really impressed by their autocross runs, because that was really ridiculous to see, sliding and correcting and still not hitting any cones and really pushing the limits of that car. So I'm actually very curious what happens here.
I think they won the Driverless Cup in one of the previous years. I don't remember which one. There was also Augsburg in there, Karlsruhe Green Team, I'm not sure, and Zürich in the early years. I see a thumbs up from the safety engineer, which is a good indication of the car being ready, maybe the best indication. And it will be given the go signal by the official. An impressive launch, super quick at the end. Hard braking after the finish line, that's impressive. I hear a lot of applauding, which would indicate to me that they had a valid run, and it's a 4.0. That is super quick.
Like I said, I was anticipating something really nice, and they delivered. That's very well done by the KIT car. It was really fast, 4.02. That's a time that's going to be very difficult to beat. So well done by Karlsruhe.
That's in the range of the manual accelerations, actually. And this is just their first run, so maybe they can still ramp it up and beat this. It's going to be a good afternoon.
You could see the car correcting a little bit, but it didn't slow down at all. It just went on and it corrected the course a couple of times, because it did swerve a little bit. But actually, 4:02, it's a very quick time, and it will be very difficult to beat for sure.
I think so too. I was impressed by how long the runoff was here on the track, but looks like they actually needed it today. We have Tallinn ready for their second run. So they did not manage to start on their first attempt, and it was a DNF. So fingers crossed they can actually get the car started and do a successful acceleration here.
Yeah, and Karlsruhe managed to do, in the end, 112 kilometers an hour, kilometers per hour at the end of the acceleration, which is really impressive, because it's 0 to 100 in, well, 4 seconds, even a bit less than 4 seconds actually. So that's very well done.
Yeah, probably a bit quicker, although maybe they have quite a linear acceleration for the driverless. Yeah, we see a lot of cars struggle with the higher speeds here on acceleration, so definitely super impressive by the Karlsruhe team to reach this top speed of 112 kilometers an hour at the end.
Yeah, I'm just going to look at the queue, Matthias, because we have already a couple of cars here. We have Budapest car, and if I walk just a little bit further, then we can see the car 322, and also we have Deggendorf. I think it's University of Napoli, 322, and Deggendorf, and at the front, and they're just going to go behind Tallinn, and it will be the Budapest car. And it seems that we are just waiting for the officials to clear the track. Not sure what exactly the hold-up is, but I think the official now is going to have a little chat with the, well, I think that's the main guy from Tallinn, the safety officer. And he's just going to check whether all the right indicators are on the screen, and they will probably give them the go-ahead in a matter of seconds. At least the Tallinn guy looks ready to rumble.
It's taking a bit of time, and I think it timed out. Not sure if this will count as a run or not. Maybe something in between. Let's hope for them that they can still do another attempt. I'm not sure. Meanwhile, the drone Miki was talking about is flying already and making some nice shots. So hopefully we can get a driving car soon here, before the battery of the drone runs out. In the queue, as Miki said, we have the 322 car from Napoli, which is one of the driverless combustion cars, actually. It also made an appearance yesterday. I do know that there are 4 driverless combustion cars in the competition. I've only seen 2 of them. I'm not sure about the scrutineering status of the other 2. Let's hope they can also make it in time for at least the acceleration here. Meanwhile, the Tallinn car is driven backwards. I need to be careful not to hit the Budapest car.
So this is actually the only time that a reversing car doesn't have a beep, while driving forward it does have a beep. So that's a bit confusing.
That's true. I never thought of that that way. It might be a good one to add. Luckily, of course, cars are never allowed to drive backwards on their own power, so it's always human powered. So speeds are always low. And the drone is now flying above the car. It sounds and looks impressive. I'm curious to see the images at the end of the competition. And I'm sure the media team will make something nice out of it as well. And the queue is filling up. I also see the Tallinn team requeuing, so that would mean that they can do another run. That's good news for them. Meanwhile, the Budapest car is ready. It's charged. System is ready. And they have been given a go. That is impressive. And again, we see the swerving of the car. Unfortunately, it spun out, hit the timing equipment. And there's even a cable attached, so it hit the timing equipment at the very end, but it also dragged along a bit of the timing equipment at the beginning. So looks like the timing guys have a job on their hands again.
Yeah, we were actually quite scared about this event. It hit actually with the rear end, it hit the timing equipment. I hope the car is okay. I hope the timing equipment is not too much damaged, but it did pull also on the timing equipment at the beginning, so that looks a bit scary. But let's hope they can fix it in time and nothing major has been damaged.
And it just shows how difficult it is to get these cars straight. Again, a slight offset, and the car starts swerving left, right. Eventually, it spun. But I mean, at that speed, if you kill the car, it will still slide away. And unfortunately, it hit the timing equipment. So we'll have probably a pause for a few more minutes. So this is the risk of running late, of course. We have 45 minutes left, which is still quite some time, but the queue is filling up. But we'll definitely have a few minutes of delay now before we can start again. I'm counting 8 cars in the queue now. Well, 7 and 1 is kind of parked at the end. I do see a new car being rolled to the start, which to me is good news, because this would mean that we will get going again in a few minutes. I don't see any people anymore at the end of the acceleration at the time equipment, so I would assume that has been fixed. There are still a few people working here on the time equipment at the start. So unfortunately, there was a cable from the start to the end with the time equipment, and the car actually dragged part of the time equipment at the end, causing the time equipment at the beginning to trip over. So they also need some work here at the start in order to get everything sorted. So it's really getting busy here right now. There are about 8 cars in the second driver queue, or the second run queue, I should say. And we have the team from Chalmers, who are in the first run queue, so they will get priority over other cars in the second run queue. Remember yesterday on the driverless kit pad, Chalmers made an appearance 2 minutes before the end and actually managed to set the second best time of the day on their first run, so it was quite impressive to see. I see everyone moving back to their positions, which is good news to me. The officials are nodding. So I would think we are ready to get going in a minute. The people from the timing equipment are back in their van.
Yeah, it looks like the track has been cleared, although I do see a couple of timing equipment guys still running around. It's really nice to see how it's like a lot of ants coming out of the ant heap towards the time equipment. They managed to at least physically fix it quite quickly, but now probably they have to test it a couple of times as well. So I think that's what Tom van Leeuwen, as we can see him walking on the track, he's just crossing the line on purpose. There you go, and probably just checking whether everything is set up right.
Interesting. He made sure he only moved one leg in front of the thing and the other leg around it to only trigger it once. Clever thinking, Tom.
Yes, he's a pro expert, right, in this timekeeping stuff, because he actually what I understand is that this timekeeping guys have designed a lot of the software by themselves, and actually they built this keeping equipment especially for Formula Student Germany, and that's quite an achievement to do. And on the other hand, you know the system by heart, so you can replace anything you want, and you can tweak it, and you can program it the way you want. So it's a lot of work to get it done, but once done, you have a lot of advantages. Yeah, and I think this was one of the situations that we've mentioned before that can cause some delays in time. And the trick is, even though this is, of course, an unfortunate accident, nobody does this on purpose, and it takes a lot of time to rebuild the track and the timekeeping. You cannot delay the end time of the event too much, because the next one will be starting, and you need a little bit of break for the volunteers and officials as well. So the amount of time that they can add at the end will be limited. It will not be half an hour, for example. So this is exactly the situation that we've discussed earlier, that it's wise to be here early, not to be caught out by these kinds of events.
Yeah, and they probably also have some agreements with the track itself on what time to make noise and what not. Of course, luckily with more electric cars now, it's all a bit more silent compared to the combustion ones. But still.
Yeah, I know, for example, in FS Austria, they have a very strict time limit. And it's 6 o'clock in the evening. They have a very strict agreement with the municipality over there and with Spielberg. And they just say, it's 6 o'clock, you can hear the bell, and then everything stops. Full stop. There's, even if you're at the queue, you're not allowed to go. At 6 o'clock, everything stops. And the first sound you hear is the beers being popped open after that. So it's a very nice system and very, very strict, but at least it's very predictable. So yeah, it will be interesting, because officially we only have 34 minutes left of this event. I do believe we will get some time, but not too much, as explained earlier. But we have at least 12 cars in the queue, and you made a nice calculation just now. If you need, let's say, 2-3 minutes at least per car, maybe even more, because you get 2 minutes to line it up, and then 30 seconds to get it started, and another minute or two to get it to collect it. I mean, you need 3-4 minutes per car easy. And then that would mean that the last ones in the queue, well, tough luck.
Exactly. We have 30 minutes left. I don't think it's going to be enough time.
Yeah, and we've had an hour, at least an hour, without any cars in the queue. So that's actually the wasted time in this side. So, well, it looks like we were right again. Anyway, let's look at the Napoli car, the 322 car. Driver is out of the car. Christian is just putting on some gloves to make the final checks. As always, it's a precaution just in case there's some current, some leaking current. It's always better to have some gloves on.
Also, they're going for the open DRS start, it seems. Looking at their rear wing, the rods that are keeping the wing up are very, very thin, in my opinion. Maybe not the right time probably to have a closer look, because they're starting up the car. But I'll have a look after the session, because that looks like an interesting concept there. On the skid pad, I remember this car was very twitchy and had a lot of steering lock while doing the skid pad. So I'm curious to see how this car will keep it straight on the acceleration. I hear a nice combustion engine. Although I love electric cars, the sound of a combustion engine, it's still quite good, isn't it?
You love the smell of combustion in the morning. Is that the right expression?
Maybe. I do remember when I was a driver still and we were queuing up behind a combustion car, you could really smell when it was, when the engine was on in the queue. So the engine at least has stopped again. So depending on whether the official gave the go or not, this will count as a run. I don't think it will matter too much for them because they lose priority anyway and have to re-queue again at a very, very long queue, which you can barely see the end of now.
Well, that can either mean it's a very long queue or you have a bad eyesight. But anyway, we have one of the very quick cars on the skid pad, which was Chalmers. Wasn't this one of the cars that actually had a bit of a misfortune in one of the earlier events?
I think in East, indeed, they had a very unfortunate crash on the driverless acceleration. Crashed the car into the wall, I think on the left side there. Did some damage, but they managed to repair it. The car looks absolutely great right now. And they also did a very, very good run on skid pad yesterday. Also, again, with the DRS open start. So it's becoming a trend here.
Yeah, it seems not a lot of teams opt for a closed start and then opening it after 50 meters, 25 meters or 30 meters. So I think a lot of teams will do it this way.
Yeah, I haven't seen it here on the driverless today, indeed, the dynamic opening, so to say. I do expect in the manual acceleration that some teams will do it. I would be surprised if none of them did. So we were talking about the heat earlier, and already you can hear the fans of all the cars blowing a lot, trying to cool the car down. Engineer is prepping the car, turning all the knobs, agreeing with the official if all is right or not. So I think they have about 2 minutes in this kind of phase to get the car ready. If you manage to do it at that time, you are eligible to do the run, and it looks like they did manage to get their car ready. I do see the yellow light, and he has been given go signal. I'm curious to see that one. Fortunately, the car stopped, or at least the autonomous system stopped. We see the blue flashing light, and they have to pack their things and go. I'm not sure if this counts as their first run or not, but they do lose priority, which means also for them they need to re-queue, and that's unfortunate because it's a very long queue. In front of me we have Deggendorf, Fast Forest Deggendorf, ready for their second run. On their first run, the car deviated slightly, went off track, and the safety engineer killed it in time. So they are hoping to complete at least one run here on the acceleration. They have a very nice blue accent on their arrow devices at the bottom. I'll see if I can have a closer look what it's about. It says Jenny 13 GDX. I have no clue what that stands for. It's really getting hot in here. Both temperature, but also the action. So many cars are lined up right now for the driverless acceleration. Looks like Deggendorf is ready to go. This is their second run. All their engineers are super focused, watching the car. Can imagine they're quite stressed. It's a good start. It's a very quick start even. Keeping it right. He needs to stop now. They did finish the acceleration, kind of. They did not park it well. I'm not sure what that means for if it's a valid run or not. The time was pretty good. It was a 5.0. So that's definitely representative. Deggendorf engineer almost made a mistake of running in front of the timing equipment. Luckily, the officials were there to warn him.
Well, Matthias, you were right. It did keep right the moment you said it. It's going right, it's going right, it went right. But I'm not sure whether this will count or not in the timeline. So we will check in later on. In the meantime, I think the queue has become a lot bigger. So it will be very interesting to see how many cars will be able to go through it.
Luckily, though, it looks like it's all second run queue. So they all did a run, or at least had the chance to do a run. I think some of them, or actually a lot of them, do not have a valid time yet, unfortunately. One of them, for example, being the Eindhoven team here, who is next up in line. They had quite an okay run, but then started to hit some cones at the very end of the acceleration. So they will be hoping that they can repeat a similar acceleration, but keep it within the cones and park it safely at the end.
Yeah, Matthias, and I'm just looking at the times on the score sheet, timekeeping sheet, and we still have only 5 valid times. So I do think that you have to stop inside the box in the end to have a valid time. So even if you stop but you're outside it, it probably counts as a DNF.
Yeah, it does make sense that it's part of the discipline. So if you can't get that right, I think also if you go off track at some point, you are obliged to kill the car. Yeah, you cannot just do anything you want here on the acceleration. I see Mickey laughing about killing cars. Of course, I mean killing the autonomous system, or at least shutting it down. And just the moment I said that there were no cars in the first driver queue, we have 2 cars. It's the Augsburg team, who did one of the previous editions in the Driverless Cup. And we also have, what team is this? So it's the 131 car from Berlin. No, it's an electric car. I thought for 1 second there was a combustion car. TU Berlin, also going for their first attempt.
Yeah, and it looks like the Tallinn car again has some issues with starting the acceleration event. So as far as I can see, the driver is getting back in the car, and they will be pulled back momentarily. I think we have another nice-looking car from TU Eindhoven. Really look a nice-looking car this year as well. We talked earlier about the lines and the stickers on the car, and you can actually see sort of a flame on the rear wing, but it's not a regular flame, but it's more of a rectangular-shaped flame. But it looks really nice.
Yeah, and we had a discussion yesterday. So on their front wing, they have their LiDAR system. But funnily enough, it is not in the center. So this morning, of course, I had a walk past the Eindhoven guys and a question what this was all about. And the reason, so they say it doesn't really matter too much if it's in the center or not. Of course, it's a little bit better in the center, but you can account for it. But the reason that they put it a bit more to the right-hand side of the front wing is because of the impact rules. And they were worried that they also had to take it into the impact test and add their LiDAR on that test. So that's the reason why they have it slightly more offset to the right. So in their first run, they actually had a quite successful run, but just at the end, they started to hit some cones, and I think they parked it outside of the track, or the safety engineer killed it in time. So they do have some potential, definitely. But this is their second run, and also their final run.
Yeah, as soon as the official gives the go-ahead, there's no turning back. That's your last chance. It hasn't come so far yet. I think the safety official is trying to get the car started, but I think he actually chooses to abort the run. I do believe that this is allowed, so will not take away their chance to run at the acceleration event. This is one of the situations that he has aborted the attempt before he was given the go-ahead by the official.
When we were talking in the beginning, indeed, it's not too bad if you need to move out again, but the queue is very long, so actually we might not see them again today, or at least this morning. Next up we have Castor. I think the car is named Castor, from the team from Zürich, EMZ. They were actually the first ones today to do an acceleration. And they were also one of the teams that had a bit of an offset and started to collect some cones on the acceleration. Let's see if they fixed their offset and now can do a straight one.
Isn't that also set up in the suspension, the Castor?
I think it always refers, so for the Zurich cars, I think it always refers to some kind of mountain road in Switzerland. But I think they kind of ran out of mountain road at some point. So then they started to get some roads from Italy as well. I'm not sure, I don't know Castor as a mountain road. I'll check up later with the team. And of course also check their caster angle. It did accelerate quite quickly, and then it seemed to have hit a kind of velocity limiter, but it was regulating quite heavy on the velocity, so it was constantly accelerating, braking, accelerating, braking. Interesting to see, but I mean, it's a good time, 5.3, quite impressive actually, given how they drove it. Parked it in the correct spot, the blue light went on at the end, so it looks like a successful run.
Yeah, it almost looked like the car was braking a couple of times instead of accelerating. But in the end, it stayed on track. It collected 0 cones. So well done by the team.
First time we see TU Berlin here today on the acceleration track. The rear wing says, "Break it till you make it."
Now, I'm quite curious whether that's towards the brake system, or they just broke the car a lot of times and they just fixed it until it didn't break anymore. Because it's something we did as well. Just go out, practice, and break the car until you can't break it anymore, and then it's reliable.
I think it has become quite standard at the Berlin car. They have these transparent side panels, so you can actually really look into the car. Unfortunately, there's no driver in there, otherwise we would have seen where the legs were and how he's applying the pedals. Now it just looks empty, there's no driver in there. It's all in the software.
Yeah, so while the checks are being prepared, final 15 minutes of the event has started, the official ones anyway. We're not talking about the extended time. We don't know how many minutes will be added to the eventual time limit. But we are in the last 15 minutes, and we have still only have 2, 4, 6 valid runs, ranging from a 4:02 by Karlsruhe, which was really fast, up into Stuttgart DHBW with an 11:09 seconds, and in between 4 other teams.
And they are given the go signal. That means from now on the run counts. Steady acceleration at the beginning. Unfortunately, it veers off to the left, hits a few cones, and the moment it goes off track, the safety engineer needs to kill the car or shut down the car. I need to watch my language. Another first car, I think, of today, at least in the acceleration, Augsburg.
Yeah, so this is what you see. As the car stalls all the way in the beginning, then the guys have to push the car all the way through the acceleration run, all the way to the back to exit the car. And this will take time. This is something that this is one of the minutes, 2 minutes that will take extra instead of in comparison to a successful run.
Yeah, I think in this case we are lucky and they are allowed to come back here. If they were a bit further, definitely they had to go around. So it will save a bit of time, but yes, indeed, if a car can do an attempt and they need to retrieve the car and clear the track, it does take a lot of time. They're doing some lifting here of the front, maybe just to get the steering wheel aligned. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you want to make sure that you're absolutely straight before you start the acceleration run. So usually when they do that, they just want to make sure that they are correctly positioned.
I think now they're a bit more happy to start the car, prepare. In this case, it's the driver that is doing all the knobs. Haven't seen that today. Usually it's another person. But we have an Augsburg car that is ready. Everyone's moving away, clearing the track. And it's ready to go. A lot of wheel spin at the beginning, but other than that, acceleration looked good at the beginning, and at the end they started to collect some cones, and they also hit the bigger ones, which, yeah, we've seen can cause some damage. I think it was the Dresden car with a part flying off when they hit the cones. The engineer did shut down the system at the end, but yeah, at that speed, it still covers some distance.
Yeah, you can see the car just veering off to the right. It didn't make any correction or any attempt to go back. It just went in a straight line. And then, of course, then you collect all the, at least, I don't know, 6, 7 cones, the big ones. And that's it, that's about it.
Yeah, I wonder if you start to hit one, due to the impact, do you start to veer even more to that side? That would be an interesting one to think about. I definitely think with the bigger cones, that's quite an impact, and your car will be affected. On the starting line is Ulm, I think. They have a very interesting nose with a lot of dents in it. Dents is not the right word. So their nose itself is quite interesting with the impact attenuator. You have the chassis. At the bottom, very low, you have the impact attenuator. And then they have another bump on top, which is part of the suspension, because they have their SDS on top of their chassis. We are waiting a little bit for the track to be rebuilt. There's still a few yellow cones missing. Meanwhile, only 10 minutes. So time is ticking. Only a few cars will still make it. Who do we have here in the queue? We still have Hamburg. We have Munich, the TU Fast Munich car, the Milano car, and then also the black-purple Trondheim car. Mickey, if you were in a Formula team right now, you're in the queue there, you only have 10 minutes, and you don't have a valid run, what would you do? Would you take a safe one, or would you just go all out?
That's an interesting question. As a driver, you mean, or as a driverless?
As a driverless, let's start with that.
Well, driverless, I would just say, looking at the scores up until now, just do a safe run, because you will get decent points anyway if you finish. So there's no reason to not finish, because any amount of valid time will be a decent amount of points. So that's what I would do.
So it accelerated pretty violently with a lot of wheel spin. Unfortunately, it veered off to the left, hit a cone, and the system was shut down.
A very similar accident, or very similar driving as one of the cars that we saw doing as well with this. You can actually see the skid marks overlapping each other almost on the left side of the track.
I'm actually quite impressed to see how easy it is to put some rubber down here on the track. The track looks very green. Only a few cars have spun there, and already you can see the rubber marks.
Which means that the EBS works on these cars, and they actually are quite capable of blocking all four wheels, because you can actually see multiple track marks on the track. So actually that's a very good system, and it works. So it does stop the car. Sometimes not as early as wanted, as we could just see a couple of minutes ago, half an hour ago, when the timekeeping was destroyed for the second time in this event. But it does work, so that's a good job by the rules committee and the students implementing this safety feature.
They were very quick with retrieving the Ulm car and clearing up the cone mess. So we don't lose much time here. We have the Hamburg car now lined up.
Well, I do have some news from Christian. I just asked him the very simple question: will you extend the event? And actually, his answers was quite short. No, I will not extend it. We had empty queue for hour and a half. We gave everybody the chance to come here and do the event.
While you were giving us the update, Mickey, we had a very impressive run from Hamburg. It was a 4.1. I think that's the second best time we've seen. Unfortunately, they hit a few cones after run, which should count, and I think there's a solid blue light at the end, so that means it's a valid run. Good time on the board.
As far as I can see, it's the second time today, and although it's with two cones, it's a very quick acceleration event from the Hamburg guy, so well done.
So 5 minutes more, maybe we can get 2, maybe 3 cars in. We still have the TU Munich car, too fast, followed by the Milano car. And behind that, we have the Trondheim car, Revolve, I think is a team called. Behind that, we have the Aachen car, but it will be very impressive if they can still make it. And still the queue after that, there are cars and cars, like 10 more cars, I think, are queued up.
Yes, also I'm looking at a small army of timekeepers emerging from the van. I think they are going to have a well-deserved lunch today. Well done, guys. Good restoring of the timekeeping equipment. Well done. Anything to say, Tom, to the audience?
Well, in the end, we lost the speed light barrier, so that's why you don't get any speeds anymore. But other than that, we were able to restore everything.
Okay, well done. So you're expecting a bit more stroopwafels from some of the teams today. Okay, thank you, Tom. Have a good lunch. Yes, it's going to be very interesting for the last couple of minutes, because it does look like the TU Munich car is taking a while to get started. They will be allowed to run, obviously, because they will still within the time limit, and I think that we have the Milano car also ready to go. But after that, all bets are off.
Clean run on the too fast car. The light is still blinking, and it's a solid blue. That there we are. Quite a good acceleration. They actually had their DRS closed, and the moment they started, it opened. So does that count as a dynamic DRS? 50-50. But yeah, very good run from the too fast car. Super nice time. Was that a 3.7? Is that correct? That is an insane time. Well done. To the Munich team. It was swerving a little bit. I started getting afraid, but the car managed to keep it in line and controlled.
Yeah, and they cut it very, very close because we're almost out of time. So they were really, really at the end, but they managed to put in a blistering time. And I'm not sure that Milano will be able to beat them, because that's very, very quick and clean. No cones at all. Well done. So we have Milano ready to go, Matthias. But you commented earlier with the nice Italian flag on the rear wing, and I see the two guys from Milan just taking a last check, looking at the car, whether they can start it. Officials are almost literally breathing down their necks, because we do have a time constraint. So they are being hurried by the officials. Let's go. If you can't get it started, then please move out of the way. But they are obviously given some time to check the car and make it ready.
We only have 1 minute. It's the last minute. I do hear a bell. I'm not sure if they will still be allowed to go or not. doesn't look like they're allowed to go anymore. I see a no sign from the officials. And that does mean that this is the end of the driverless acceleration at FSG 2023. And we had some spectacular runs, we had some spectacular times just at the very end with TU Fast. We will be wrapping up, getting some lunch, and then we'll be back this afternoon for the manual acceleration and the driverless autocross.
Yeah, so just to finish up the acceleration event, and again, it's sad to see a lot of cars being pushed out of the queue. Like we told you earlier, we also made an announcement. We have an empty queue. Come up and do the acceleration run. Don't wait too long. Again, it happened this year. Anyway, so we have a couple of very fast times today. Starting off with the first time from Munich, just in the last dying seconds of the event. We have a 371, followed by Karlsruhe KIT with a 402, already considerable gap. Closely followed by Hamburg with a 413. And then Green Team Stuttgart with a 440. And TU Delft with a 508. Zürich with a 535. Lisboa with a 684. And Stuttgart's DHBW this time. It's an 1109. So these are at least the unofficial times, because this is not including any cones and so on. Only 8 cars, if I count correctly, have a valid time, but they did an excellent job. They were here on time and they put in a clean lap or a couple of cones maybe, but they managed to get some decent points. So next up, in the afternoon, we'll be back for some more action on the acceleration.